Good evening. Welcome to Photo Live with Minstel Kuik in conversation with Alison Eggleton. My name is Elias Redstone and I'm the Artistic Director of Photo 2021 International Festival of Photography. The festival will take place in Melbourne and across regional Victoria this coming February, from the 18th of February to the 7th of March 2021. I would like to begin by acknowledging the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional owners of the land on which I live, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for joining us for Photo Live as we invite photographers and artists to discuss the social and cultural role photography plays in our lives. Photo Live is supported by Curator Victoria and the Australia Council for the Arts, and expands on Photo 2021's festival theme, exploring the relationship between photography and the truth. All previous Photo Live talks are available to watch on photo.org.au. But today it's my pleasure to introduce Chinese Malaysian artist, Minstel Kuik. Minstrel's practice considers and questions the politics of place, family and cultural identity, and how this intersects with personal experience. She has exhibited widely, including Photo Fest in Houston and the Higashikara Photo Festival in Japan. Her exhibition, She Who Has No Self, was presented at Horsham Regional Art Gallery earlier this year. Originally conceived for Photo 2020, the exhibition is part of Photo 2021's expanded program in advance of the festival in February. This evening, Minstrel will be in conversation with the curator at Horsham Regional Art Gallery, Alison Eggleton. Alison is currently undertaking a Master's by Research at RMIT, looking at the curation of photography and multidisciplinary art practice by Southeast Asian women. Welcome, Minstrel and Alison.
Hi, Elias. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for joining us this evening. Hi, Minstrel.
Hi, Elias.
I'm going to disappear for a bit and let you have a conversation for about 40 minutes. If anyone's watching this and wants to ask a question, feel free to post a question in the comment section at any point during the talk, and we'll get to those towards the end. I'll see you shortly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Alison.
How are you? Are you good?
Sorry?
Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. Trying to be comfortable in front of the camera.
Good. Fantastic.
Not my strength, normally.
So I might just start giving a little bit of a background to what was actually in the exhibition, She Who Has No Self. So the exhibition was a selection of existing works as well as a science-specific installation work made especially for the gallery. All of the works were printed, newly printed in Australia, and that meant that we could, Minstrel and I could make decisions as the curator artist around the scale, the materiality, and how many works to show, which was a fantastic opportunity. And congratulations on a beautiful show, Minstrel.
No, I think it's a collaboration between the museum, between the curator, and so many technical support from the museum that make this exhibition possible. Although I didn't have the chance to see it in person, yeah, but still, I mean, thanks to the documentation, yeah.
Yeah. So as Minstrel said, she didn't get a chance to see it because COVID-19, of course, and the gallery had to close its doors 5 weeks into the show. But if you go onto our gallery website, we still have a virtual tour that where you can see the exhibition, and also an exhibition catalogue was produced for the show. So all of those things are still accessible on our gallery website. So maybe let's start by talking about your multidisciplinary practice, Minstrel. You majored in painting in you studied photography in France, and you know, your practice expands to drawing, sculpture, installation, working with textiles, and yet you still return to photography. What is it about photography that remains at the core of your practice?
I think photography is a perfect medium because it's a selfless medium. And of course, I will explain what is a selfless medium later. And it has the immediacy of experience. It put me in direct contact with the outer world. Unlike when I was a painter, I spent long hours in the studio imagining my world or navigating between styles or cultural codes. Whereas with photography, first you have to go out, and then if you are lucky, you may take a good picture. And if not, then you have to try your luck again. So in a way, it put me in a less confident situation, less calculative as an artist, because most of the time we try to visualize our ideas, put a form to our ideas. So everything happens in our mind and our way of working with materials. But with photography, because there is a lot of uncontrollable factors which will affect for example, affect the shooting or affect the printing process. So at the end, I think it teaches me to be, in a way, to be acceptable of what the world has to offer rather than what I have to create. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's also a way of looking, because when I say it's a selfless medium, because it's very natural, it's a very dangerous apparatus. It tends to make you forget that you are actually looking through a camera, through a machine, and then we are making pictures through lenses, through aperture, through all kind of buttons. Yeah.
Devices. Yeah.
Devices. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
So you have to constantly remind yourself there is a gap in between you as the image maker, the device, and the world. Yeah, that's at least the first stage of photography. And then later, of course, you have the printing process, you have the presentation where you have to look at the material of the support of the surfaces, and playing with scale. And you have to take into consideration of the proportion or the scale of the images and their impacts on the audience. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of translation of devices, translation between the maker, the world, or the sitter, or the objects in front of you, and the audiences. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's lots of modes in which photography goes through. You know, it's not just the camera itself, is it? It's the way you look, it's the camera, it's also the output and the way you choose to produce that output. So there's so many layers to it.
Mhm.
Yeah. When we met about 18 months ago, and you showed me the Merrily series and the Kuala Lumpur trilogy photo books, that really caught my attention, and it was one of the reasons why I invited you to exhibit. And I think it was because those works talked about the universal idea of belonging and this sort of sense of a personal truth in moments in time. Now, I know since we've worked on the show and during the curation of the show, you have maybe a different approach to the idea of truth, and the way that you have developed a sense of your use around the term truth, or the use around the term truth. Would you maybe like to talk a little bit about that?
Personally, I'm against personal truth. Yeah, because I think truth is not an opinion. So the clearer the definition, truer it will be. So I'm looking for something more stable, something, I wouldn't say universal, but something more well-defined. Not universal because when you try to apply truth in a real context, in the reality, you realize that it cannot be universal because it can only be applied in a very small part of the world or a small part of certain conditions or situations. That's why I think truth is very small. It is so small that it's like a screw of a big machine. Yeah. But the problem is when we look at truth, we tend to believe that it's the machine that works, that make the world turn. But to me, truth is a small component of a big machine. And when I in my upbringing in Malaysia, I was taught, traditional values or religious doctrines or official history, all kind of avatars of truth. Yeah, but most of the time they contradict themselves, and I find it dangerous, or I find it they cannot help me to cope with problems in my life or in my art making, and I don't have a solid grounding in my thinking process. It was until when I went to Taiwan and when I was familiarized with the concept of truth in Western philosophy, I started to look at it more seriously, trying to understand the logic of thinking, yeah, and understand and learn to articulate my thinking. And I think it helps, in return, it helps me to analyze my own work, or when I look at other artists' work, or in politics in Malaysia, it really helps. Yeah.
Do you think that that's because that sense of self, a sense of self is is not able to be separated out from society, that there's a layering of the personal in the national, or, you know, there's the narrative of self maybe is quite different to, say, the Western sense of self.
I mean, the reality is we live in the society, and we are in a web of human relations, and a web of relationship, not only with human beings, but with the nature, with the animals, with the weather, with the cosmos. So how do we, you know, learn to be how to be objective, scientific, rational, but at the same time to take care of our emotions, to acknowledge our needs, our psychological needs, like sense of belonging, or the true meaning of family. What is it, or what does it mean to belong? Yeah. So all those things, they are the foundation of my thinking. They are they create context for my work. That's why I said truth should be small, because once you cross the boundary into a different field, or once you go to a different place, suddenly that you realize that, oh, you don't speak the language, or even though you speak their language, you don't understand their joke, or you don't understand what's behind, or you don't understand their body language, or you don't understand their culture. Even though you understand their culture, you don't appreciate their culture like the locals. So there are different barriers of understanding, and all these things point to one situation, or one reality, is because we live together in the society. So how do we find our place to live together? Yeah, I think that's my preoccupation, not only in art, but also in life.
The place is integral to identity and how the lived experience.
Yes.
Yeah. What would you like to talk about next? Would you like merrily, or would you like to look at, want to talk a little bit about, you know, now we're talking about sort of self and identity, belonging, and maybe family, because you've worked with that sense of belonging and family in other areas of your practice, haven't you?
Now, one thing I would like to highlight about sense of belonging or family, those themes, recurrent themes in my work, like nationhood, or being a woman, is not about truth, but they are more about feeling. Sometimes they are obscure, inarticulate feeling. So I think instead of, you know, looking for truth is very simple. It's like an equation. It's very clear. It's well defined. But in reality, all these troubles we are facing, or in the past, in the history, what we know is all kind of, you know, entanglement of problems. And the feeling is something very complex. Like we talk about sense of belonging, it's so complex that most of the time we hide behind truth. We try to convince ourselves this is truth, this is the truth, so we have to follow it. But behind there is you know, the machine of feeling which exercise on our decision. So now, yeah, I would like to share with you one of my earliest work. Let me share with you. Yeah. One of my earliest complete works on the theme of family, or on the theme of womanhood, sense of place. So this is a work I did in 2009 based on a selection of images I did in 2004 until 2006. Yeah. So I have this habit of revisiting my old photograph and then try to look at them again and again, trying to find a pattern in my way of seeing things or in my way of photographing my surroundings and trying to establish a sort of structure. Yeah. So what you are seeing here is another series called the Home series, which I did for an exhibition in Higashikawa Photo Festival in Japan in 2013. So for this exhibition, I proposed 6 sequences which documented the daily life in Malaysia, a very mundane, very ordinary moments in a domestic setting or in the rural setting in Malaysia. And what you are looking at now is called the afternoon haircut, where you see my niece Hao Ming. At that time, she was 4 years old, and she was surrounded by 3 other women in the family. My mother, who was in red t-shirt, and her mother, Hao Ming's mother, standing behind her, and my sister, which is the aunt of Hao Ming. Yeah, so my mother was giving Hao Ming a haircut, and whereas the other 2 women try to comfort her or try to make her to stand still. Yeah. And another sequence in the Home series is called The Villages, where I just pose 2 types of images. One is motorcyclists, yeah, passing through the road in front of my parents' house in Pandai Remis, and photographs taken from my family album. So I made this trip between Kuala Lumpur and Pandai Remis in 2008 by bus. And then one day most of the time when you go back to your family home, when you have nothing to do, you look at your family album, trying to recall what happened in your childhood, etc. So one day I had the idea of taking out those photographs from the album and then to look at them under the natural sunlight. And then I realized that, okay, at the background of the photograph is this motorcyclist passing by. Yeah. So there is a sort of juxtaposition of these moving figures at the back of the images and those fixed or transfixed figures in the photograph. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a contrast of a sense of family as a very stable structure and, you know, the ever changing relationship of human interaction, or our choice of hometowns in one's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, we come to the installation view of She Who Has No Self, which happened in February in Horsham Regional Art Museum in Australia. So what you see is the extension of my exploration in the theme of family. So merrily, 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 I have to say it 4 times. Yeah, is actually the earlier stage of this body of work actually had a different name. It's called See the Water. And in 2008, they were exhibited in singular image. And then in 2011, when I had the invitation to participate in Photo K, organized a photo biennale organized by the Musée du Quai Branly in France, I decided to create this diptych top-down composition. But at that time, the edge or the margin of the photographs, they are not round like what you see now. Yeah, it was the form or the structure of the work changed along the years.
Minstrel, would you like to show another view of Merrily Merrily series so we can see them a little closer, so you can see the photographic pairs there, create a kind of a more extensive narrative than just the single image?
Yeah. So this is a selection of images based on what I did in between 2008 until 2013. So there is basically 6 years accumulation of images in my computer. And for this series of work, I have to constantly remind myself not to change too much, because I change my point of view when I look at the work. So I tend to want to change the composition. So the criteria of the pairing is a perfect pairing, like truth, needs to resist, my change of opinion. So for example, certain pairs, they were like that since the beginning, and I find them just perfect. But certain pairs, yes, I keep changing the composition. I try so hard to find the right pair or the right half, the other half. So what you see here is a combination top-down. Most of the time, the diptychs, the images in the diptychs, they are not taken in the same places, or they are not taken at the same time. but they are composed in order to create a more nuanced narrative, so that I can capture certain atmosphere or enter into a more abstract space rather than stay on the surface trying to figure out what is a family, for example. So there are themes such as my personal experience as a woman, my miscarriage, or the woman around me, the image with the image on my right hand side is actually a group of women of certain age. They were watching traditional opera in my hometown.
Minstrel,
yeah.
can I just ask you, do you mind if I interrupt? I was just going to point out that this series was taken, a lot of the images from this series were when you had returned from living in France for a number of years, coming back to Malaysia, spending time with your parents in your home village, trying to find a sense of maybe a sense of belonging. And interestingly, there are images that are clearly of action in the street, of the village, of the people around you, of your extended family, and then others that have a truncated section of your own body,
Yes.
and that talk about your body in that way. I wondered if maybe rather than talking about the pairing, I wondered if you could sort of talk a little bit about why it was important to negotiate the degree of how visible you were in these works.
Actually, I wasn't thinking of my presence in my own image. I started showing my camera like you show things to a child. Look at this. Yeah. So this is basically what I do to my camera. I look through my camera, but at the same time, I'm showing my camera, hey, look at this, as if it is a very strange process. Like what I said earlier, is a selfless medium. Is this in-betweenness which help us, both of us, the camera and me, to realize our existence. Yeah. So when I show the objects in my hands to the camera, it's like I reintroduce these objects into my lexicon of thinking. Yeah. So that's the purpose of my body being introduced in the images. And then because I'm using one of my hand, my left hand to hold the objects and my right hand to press the buttons, so I'm limited by the distance of my arms, my both arms. So I find it quite interesting because the uneasiness, I think, and put myself in a very uneasy situation actually make me realize more my own reality, my body, and my presence. Yeah.
And of course, you you work with a photographic archive. So while we're talking about these works and the pairing of these works, the titling and retitling of these works, you have an extensive photo archive of images you've taken over many years. And these works are, we've talked about you mining your archive, you know, thinking and making and revisiting your archive. And each time you revisit your archive, you are thinking about and bringing a new approach, or maybe not a new approach, but you're bringing a different self in a way as time progresses. So every image is up for review and revisiting, retitling. Now working with the photographic archive in this way really sort of plays with, you know, this idea of leaving a trace, and why is it important for you to leave a trace, to be able to use work that has been used in previous works? You're using images that have been used in previous works and reusing them, altering them in some way and reusing them and retitling them. Yeah.
I think because I'm too kind to myself, I want a second chance every time, another chance to make it right. I think, yeah, that's the best reason I think I can give you. But yeah. I don't think I make that many images comparing to anybody in the world now. I mean, all of us, we take pictures every day. I don't know how many pictures we have, you know, being stored in our phones or in our computers. So, but I think we seldom look back. We look back only when the machine tell us to look back. When, let's say, Facebook, reminds you 6 years ago you posted this image, and then you look at it, yes, I did, and today is my birthday.
Yeah.
But otherwise, like today is my birthday, then you look at the image, well, what happened? But what I would like to do is to take that kind of initiative. I don't like Facebook recommend me a friend. I hate that. That's why I'm not active at all in social media. I don't like somebody take over that initiative from me. So working with the archive is a way, like, keep going back to a place, because the first time when I went to a place, visiting a place, I'm a tourist like anybody else. You know, I go there, I enjoy beautiful landscape, I find a good restaurant, those things we all do. But once you go back and again, you start to establish relationships with the people there, with the place. You are familiarized with the locals, or you leave a part of you. So
bring up another image, Minstrel.
Yeah, sure.
The one of the other works.
Yeah. So what you see here is actually the second part of Merrily in another room in the exhibition space. So the second part consists of images I did in 2013 until 2017. But what you see now, there is only 10 diptychs, which means it's still a work in progress. So in the future, when I date those works, they will, I will date in a very specific way, like 2013 until 2017 slash, let's say if I make the work in 2025, that will be slash 2025. It's a way to like situate or locate myself in a time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And do
So
you have there of mimic?
Yes. You want to go to mimic first, or you want to look at the photo books first?
Yeah, I don't think we have much time, Minstrel. I think we need to move right along, right to the end, actually, because we've been talking for 45 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, mimic. What you see here is mimic La Chinoise in made the original photos. There were studio photographs made in 2005 when I was still a student in art. And later I revisited those images again and again. Like what you see here is the original mimic by Jeff Wall, 1982. Yeah. So what you see here is a very clear confrontation between the West and the East. An Asian man was confronted by a Caucasian man, yeah, on the street. And later I did a series of attempts with or without camera, like what you see now. These two pictures, they were taken by my first computer, which was a web camera. So I was performing at the time, 2006. It was a significant year for the Chinese artists, because China opened its door, and I was in France at that time. There's a arrival of a Chinese artist in the French art scene. So at that time, what I saw was a lot of female representation, seductive bodies, very welcoming smile. So I was imitating an Asian woman in front of the camera, yeah, performing. And we come to the major work of this exhibition, She Who Has No Self. Yeah. So that's a revisit of another work which I did in 2014. So at the time I was invited to join a group show which showcased only women artists in Malaysia. And the title of the show is called The Good Malaysian Woman Show. So I decided to propose 3 pieces of works to create the triangle of between the nationhood, womanhood, and the self. So for this exhibition, I decided to rework on that image, yeah, mimic Amoy. It's no longer mimic La Chinoise, but Amoy, A-H-M-O-I. Amoy is a term we call a young woman in Malaysia, a Chinese young woman. Yeah. So it's a digital manipulation of 3 different types of images. One is what you saw just now, my performance in front of the web camera, and the other one is the round mirror, and photograph of dry hibiscus found on my balcony. Yeah. So there are 2 panels, long panels installed in this room. Yeah. And when you walk through it, it's like you witnessing the eclipse of self. Yeah. Appearing, disappearing, or hiding behind, or sometimes reclaiming the positive space, or hiding or become the negative space. Yeah.
And of course, it's printed on fabric, 18 meters long.
Yes.
Printed on fabric. So there was quite a lot of discussion about how to print it. Actually finding a printer who could print it on 18 meters and have the confidence to do so. But it allows the work to sort of float in the space. And by contrast is sort of almost like where you are now, who you are maybe now as a person, as a woman, as an artist, the way you're approaching things. You've used work in your archive of the image that we saw earlier from Mimika Moy, and then this is translated across into a sort of a contemporary self, possibly. Let's invite Elias in to ask some questions, because I'm sure he'll have something to ask us.
Hi again.
Hi, this is fantastic. I'm enjoying this so much. Thanks, Minstrel. Thanks, Alison.
So, sorry to interrupt. Should I stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, maybe stop sharing the screen for now. And we've got a beautiful question from someone watching this live, Carolyn Rundell. She's really enjoying the conversation and has commented how the images have a really clear and crisp feel, and perhaps this was not what I expected, and yet I found them compelling, with the combinations and juxtapositions making a fascinating push and pull in and out of story and logic. Would you perhaps talk about your interest in this new logic and the involvement of intuition and the uncanny in how you present the works? In particular, the crispness of the images makes them read as almost unreal in the lived reality of community and belonging. Would you like to share some ideas about this?
Thank you for the questions. I think the challenge working with documentary photography is to go beyond the surface, go beyond the visible, because documentary is like the unami in flavor. It's very plain. That's why in our previous discussion with Alison, I was telling Alison about I need to put MSG inside so that people realize that there is some artifice, there's some artistic work in those pictures. But at the same time, too much MSG is dangerous, because you can no longer discern what is real, what is the artifice, and you don't know where you are. So the challenge would be how to enter that specific space where, as if you are in front, you are not simply the observer, you are part of the scene, you are the object that you are observing. That's why I was, in my notes, I was talking about the crossroad between the transcendence and immanence, that relationship of in and out. How to be in and out at the same time, but not in sort of a denial relationship. Yeah. So what I learned a lot is from cinema. For example, when I watch Tarkovsky's movie, I'm always very moved by certain scene. Mm-hmm. I have the feeling that I'm there witnessing the whole thing, and it's driving me, to a kind of like unbearable kind of, emotion. Yeah. So the crispness in those images, I think the function or the MSG effect is there to highlight certain sensory experience rather than to conceal the reality. Yeah, just right, I think. Yeah.
That's great. And I want to ask, I mean, there's so many ideas flowing through your work, and a lot of them have to do with sort of family and place and movement. And I was wondering, at this time, when we're kind of in this grips of this global pandemic and it's affecting everyone in many different ways, I was wondering what ideas are most interesting to you right now? Like, what are you really thinking about? What's of the greatest concern for you at this time, when perhaps some of the things you might have been exploring previously are no longer possible to access?
There's a lot going on in the politics in Malaysia right now. Within a span of few months, we Malaysians, we are going through, up and down, like a series of roller coaster in our daily life. Like yesterday, there was an election in Sabah. And then before that, a politician announced that he has the majority seats, but we just had a sort of coup d'etat in February. We had the general election in 2018. Mm-hmm. I don't remember. Now it's all messed up. Yeah. And then we have a coup d'etat. And then a few days ago, somebody said, oh, I have the majority seat again, which means we might change government again. And then you have the pandemic. Mm-hmm. What I learned from the pandemic is a public health policy or crisis. And there's so much that I have no access to. I don't know what's real. I read information online. I read scientific research, here and there, or even the choice of face masks, for example, whether it can really stop the virus or not. That's one question. So I think my concern is always the same. Like the cost of human life. I know that not that long ago, the average of human beings' life is 45 years old. So I'm 43, So with medicines, with science, we can live, for certain people, they would like to live forever. And whereas for people in certain region, they experience war, poverty, all kind of disasters, challenges in their life. So my concern is always to look at my life and my actual situation, my actual world, without any illusion, try to be just, try to establish truth. Yeah, that's why truth is important. But I'm not into personal truth. I'm into small truth, yeah, which has a certain shelf life. I mentioned about the shelf life, yeah, but we control the speed, not somebody tell us, oh, this is not working anymore. Then we change, yeah. So that is my thinking at the moment.
Minstrel, thank you. Thank you for being so frank and honest with us today. It's been a pleasure, and you know, there's a lot going on in the world, and I think some of your approach of how to think about it is probably healthy for a lot of us to take on board at this time. That's all we have time for this evening, but Minstrel, Alison, thank you so much for your time and participating in Photo Live. And
thank you for this opportunity, and thank you to Alison for making the exhibition real.
Oh, you're so, it looked like a beautiful show, and it's just so sad it had to close early. Minstrel, hopefully you'll be able to join us in Australia.
I do hope so. Yeah.
But in the meantime, have a very good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Minstrel.
Bye.
Thanks, Alaz. Bye.